I'm Doug Rasheed. I'm a Grammy-nominated record producer, and I'm rocking with Grandosiá TV.
Welcome back to another episode of Grandosiá TV. I'm here with Doug Rasheed, Grammy nominated record producer. And today we're going to talk about his journey throughout uh, the ups and downs and lows of music with Death Row Records, working with Tupac, working with Coolio, and all his other endeavors he has going on. So before we get started, make sure you subscribe, share, like, hit the notification bell so you can be up to date on everything that we do here at Grandosiá TV. Doug, how you been doing?
I'm doing very well, I'm blessed. I can't complain.
So we want to get some information on you, man. Let the people know uh, what did you used to do, what are you still doing, and what can we look forward to you giving us here in the future?
Well, I've been doing music a long time. Even before I started producing, I was playing in bands ever since I was a young teenager. I started in music as a young child. So by the time I was in high school, I was playing in bands, and I pushed that on out till I was in my 20s, mid 20s, and we were touring around the world. Went to Japan, some other places, and it was there that I kind of got into music production and writing. I got a couple of little pieces of equipment, started writing just to pass the time, because when you're working, excuse me, when you're working all night, playing in the club and pretty much sleeping all day, it's a different lifestyle. So it would get kind of boring. You wake up, you got to pass the time from about 2, 3 o'clock. You wake up 4 o'clock in the afternoon, ain't nothing to do but wait till it's time to hit the club and play.
So, with your journey taking you to Japan inside of a band, how did that right there prepare you to be the great producer that you became?
I was able to really hone my skills, and just focus in on writing and learning how to make music. Creating entire songs instead of just playing the bass or just playing the keyboard or whatever. And the band I had, everybody kind of played a little bit of everything, so we would switch around. So it just allowed me to focus in on it, and it also changed my perspective. Being away from home, on another side of the world, it changed my perspective on life. Yeah.
So, when you came back to the States, home I'm taking is California. So, when you came back to the States, how long did it take for you before you really started like saying, you know what, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna start producing, I'm getting into the studio life? How long did that take?
That was immediate, pretty much. I mean, when I had already planned to come back and start build a studio and come back and get into that. So when I got back from Japan after the second year living over there, I came back and started uh, focusing in on setting up a studio, getting some better equipment, and just building on that. And I started immediately.
Now, who was the first artist that you started working with once you got everything started setting up? I mean, as far as locally, major labels, who did you really start working with?
I started working with local San Diego artists, Cadillac D, people you never heard of, Johnny Z, who we ended up making a pretty big record that was a regional hit. It was number one in Brazil and some other, because it's kind of Latin record. He was a Spanish guy, Mexican rapper, so he would do that. We called it Spanglish.
Okay.
So his record that came right out of the living room kind of made a little headway. But everybody else just local talent.
Before we jump ahead with the major things that you done, what is San Diego music scene like? I never heard nobody talk about it before.
Yeah, San Diego was LA's stepchild in some ways, because it's so close to LA and LA is so big. It kind of gives San Diego that kind of a vibe. But the music scene is extremely powerful down there. I mean, it's been going on, but it's a lot of gangster rap. It's always been that way. It's still that way. In many ways, it's kind of based on that. California's like that anyway, but I think it's grown in LA. It's kind of grown out of that, and so you have a lot of the other groups like the Far Side that came in the '90s, and like Kendrick Lamar came out of that that era where there's a lot of lyrical rappers that kind of branched out away from that gang thing. But San Diego is still very much entrenched in that for the most part. But it's a strong record, strong music scene.
Now, do you plan on reaching back out to anybody that's in San Diego and bringing them to the light now that you're doing a lot of things now?
Absolutely. I mean, I've always kind of reached back and try to deal with some of the artists there. Recently been talking to Black Mikey. Anybody who's from San Diego, they know who Black Mikey is, and we've been discussing doing some work on his new project that he's working on. I'm actually working on some tracks for him right now. Yeah.
So transferring to what made you Doug Rasheed, from what I'm hearing is you did a lot of stuff with Coolio, you did things with Tupac. So when you left San Diego, was it straight to LA immediately and you started finding these guys, or what was the steps and process with that right there?
Yeah, when I got back, I stayed back in San Diego from Japan about 3 years and really focused in on honing my skills. And a really good friend of mine who's really like a brother to me, we call him Poon, but his name is Richard Lawless, Big Poon. You know, he was the guy who kind of convinced me. He said, "I think you're ready. You need to go to LA." And I was 27, I think, at that time. So I moved up to LA, moved in with my brother and his roommate, who they pretty much were working out of town most of the time. And, you know, I just really started to focus in on trying to make my way in the music business in LA. Yeah.
Now, who was the first person you started working with once you got there? What was the major person that said, "Hey, we got to get together and work"?
Yeah, well, I started working as a security guard at a movie studio there, and there I met this guy Paul Stewart, who managed a lot of groups. He had a few groups. One of them, and most of them were not signed yet. It was Montel Jordan. He wasn't signed yet. He had Coolio, who actually was signed. But the only thing he had was that County Line record, which was a regional hit. So he hadn't had any major records yet. And then he had some other groups, and he had some groups that were just kind of throwaway groups. And he tossed me one of them groups. I did some music with him, and then that kind of got his attention. This dude is, he got something. So from there, I started working with Coolio and Montel Jordan, YNV, and some of his other groups that he had. And we most of them got deals.
So
turn this thing off.
So for the ones who don't. Who would never have the fortitude to work with an artist like a Coolio, and Montel Jordan has some big stuff too. What is it like working with people like that? What was it like working with Coolio?
It was it was cool because I mean at that time everybody's humble, everybody just trying to make it. So to me it was like I was able to get up to LA and click in with people that were hungry and trying to get into business. Where in San Diego I was linked in with some people, but they was mostly hustlers and cats that was in that game, and we was trying to make, and they were more like family to me. So we was really like, really tight, but they was just too focused on that. So when I got to LA, I felt fortunate to be able to click in with some people that were, really trying to get in the music game. So it was dope.
Now, was Coolio a hard worker? Was he like a one take, like a Jay-Z type deal? What was his process? Or what was y'all process together? What kind of magic did y'all make together?
Well, the only song we ever did was Gangsta's Paradise. We actually I did play on some music on his previous album, but it was just songs he already had, and I just kind of played some instruments and did some work on it. But that song, Gangsta's Paradise, was the only song we actually did together. And there's a story behind that too, and I don't want to get too deep in because the documentary's coming out for the 25th anniversary. But it was pretty. It was a lot of fun. A lot of people involved. It's a pretty interesting story behind how it came about.
Now, when you say that record is the one that put you on, where people start recognizing who you are.
Absolutely, because before that I had the Chocolate Tie record with YNB that came out the previous year, and it was a regional hit. I mean, they played it around. It was nationwide, but it was on the chart, but not very high. I think it charted maybe in the top 40. I can't remember its highest highest position, but it wasn't a big hit. Nothing that would get me any real recognition. But the following year, when Gangsta's Paradise came out, it was like skyrocket. So
So now this the story I want to know about because everybody been telling me about Doug and his biggest thing has been working with Tupac. Working with
yeah.
Tupac. That's everybody's guy. Sadly, it came to an end for him in '96, but that
Mm-hmm.
was everybody's guy. So working with him,
Mm-hmm.
that had to be the most incredible thing. And you're working with Death Row at the same time.
Right.
What was that whole experience like being around Pac, being around the Death Row, being around the guy that everybody just was scared of at Suge Knight? What was that like?
That's a good question, and I get a lot of that. And I would say this: that working with Tupac was definitely the highlight of my career up to this point. Just his energy and the type of person he was. You knew that you were working with somebody who was very special and who was going to go down in history. I believed it. I felt it. Anybody else that came around, they knew that. And his process was that he was, I mean, he was all work. You know what I'm saying? And he was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be playing and playing. When it's time to work, it's time to work. He'd get down to business, and he was a workaholic. He worked every day. He was always ready to work, always ready. And when he got done, it's time to play. Let's play. He played hard too. So, you know, it was unfortunate that he passed. You know, we had a lot of plans. You know, his record label that he was working on, he was putting together. I was a part of that, and would have been one of the main producers on that label. And so a lot died when he died. A lot of that died. So it was disappointing. It was hard. It was hard pill to swallow, man.
Do you ever have the what if moment?
All the time. All the time. I've had the what if 20 years, 25 years of what if, you know? Yeah.
Now, what about working with? Besides, I know Suge was in the building. I know we watched the
Mm-hmm.
NAA movie, and it showed a lot of stuff going on
Yeah.
inside the studio. Was it really like that? Was it really a red room?
I'd be honest with you, I never went in that office. I worked in the studio, but Dad Suge, he came in and out of the studio when I was there, and there was definitely things going on, but none of that happened in my sessions. You know what I'm saying? I think that me and Suge had a relationship that was all business. He knew I was there. I was gonna handle my business, and there was no fear. You know, Suge was a fearsome type of dude, but you didn't have to be scared. I mean, you in there doing your job. Cats, I think would just get on his bad side trying to be gangster.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? I grew up in a banging neighborhood, but I wasn't no gangbanger. So I'm not coming in there with no rag trying to act like I'm gangbang. I'm in there as a record producer producing music. So he come in there and be like, man, listen to this. What you think? You know, what you think about that? You know what I'm saying? Things like that. So it was a cool, very relaxed setting when he was around me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, was it any other Death Row artists that you worked with while you was there?
That's gonna be a no. But I could have worked with Snoop on the Dog Food album, but there was so much going on, and when Pac got killed, just the whole environment was just not something I wanted to be a part of at that time. Yeah, there's some regrets, but at the same time, considering how things were going on at that time, I would have probably still turned it down. I was invited to work on it. Yeah.
So after that happened, after that tragedy happened, where did the music take you after that? Where did you end up at?
Man, from there, I'd have to think about the chronology of it all, but everything pretty much came to a standstill once Pac was killed, and Pac and Biggie. I mean, I say everything. Labels was leaving, going to Atlanta. The whole city pretty much shut down. There wasn't a lot going on. So I did some projects. I'd have to look at the dates and stuff to see which ones came later. But I kind of started to work with other artists that were not in the rap world. Like I did the work with Barry White, worked with the Bee Gees, ended up working with Shaka Khan, and just some OG artists and just things that was kind of outside of that world. You know, yeah.
I saw some things where you work with Whitney, or you worked on the Preacher's Wife
Hmm.
album. Was that with Whitney Houston?
Yeah, that was on the Preacher's Wife soundtrack, and it was Whitney Houston. It featured pretty much everybody from New Edition, including Bobby Brown and Johnny Gill and all of them, was on there. No, they weren't. I wasn't in the studio with all of them.
Okay.
That would have been a lot of fun, but I didn't. Yeah, basically they were already. They just had their voices on the track already. So Clive Davis hired me to come in and finish the production because he liked what I did on the Brandy remix that had the LL Cool J from Waiting to Exhale. So he called me back and he's like, "I want you to do this." So I was able to come in and just do what I do. His exact words, just coming to do what you and Dr. Dre do. I said, wait a minute, you elevating me to that level? That's a lot of pressure. But I went in, we got it done. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So with anybody, with all the young people that's watching, and the music game is changing all the time, what would be your advice to somebody that's trying to knock down the door right now to get into this game?
Well, the game done changed. My advice today to these youth today is be your own boss. Don't depend on record labels to take you to your dream. You have to be a hustler. You have to get out there and do what you do. You do it yourself. You get on social media, you build your following, and you grind. You got to post a lot of content, and you really are your own label now. You know what I'm saying? And these labels, if they catch wind of you, you making some noise, they may come to you then. At that point, it's better that way. Because if you go to them, they got all the leverage. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it used to be. Labels always had all the leverage. But nowadays, it's kind of switched around. Now, if you balling, a lot of these young guys, man, they only want record deals because they're making $1 million a year or $500,000 a year or more, you know what I'm saying, on their own stuff. So, label come to you now. If you making $1 million a year and they come and tell you they want to sign you, well, they better come with it then, right?
Right.
And that's my advice to them.
So would you say the same thing about a producer as well? I know producer, paperwork, all that stuff can be funny. So What about the young producer? Same thing?
Well, producers, I ain't gonna say producers are obsolete because they're not, but beats have become obsolete in a sense of the value of beats because beats, you can get free beats. So if they got free beats, thousands and thousands of free beats online, then what's the value of a beat? What's valuable is my advice to producers is learn the craft because beats is a dime a dozen. But somebody who understands how to go in and make a hit record, how to produce vocals and how to, mix and just learning the entire craft, how to make a hit record, that you can't, it's not free. You know what I'm saying? That's value. That's where your value is.
So you, sir, when you're not making music, who are you listening to? Who are some of your favorite people now that you're like, you know what, if I get a chance, I'll work with that person right there?
As far as new artists?
Yes.
Oh, man, all these young guys, man. I love all these young guys, man. I can't even, I like Lil Baby. You know what I'm saying? He's dope. I would have loved to have gotten to work with Pop Smoke. That's another unfortunate, loss for us. Nipsey, I would have loved to work with Nipsey. He was special. But, there's just so many artists, they come and go now. You got these guys coming out, and I can't keep up with them. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wait a minute. My son, my stepson, and my daughter, they're teenagers. So they keep up. My daughter's kind of more eclectic, but my stepson, he's into the rap and all that stuff. So he kind of keeps me up on who's doing what. I would say about 70-75% of the new young guys. I would love to work with them. Hard to name names, though.
That's true. It is. I know like the Baby. I like him a little bit. Like you said earlier in the thing, I love Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
J. Cole. The only problem with them, though, I think they are great, but I think that breed of rapper or musician is dying off. What do you think?
I think that they're not dying off. Actually, I think that they're going to continue to thrive in their part of their zone where they're at. They're going to have their own base. I think what has happened with the way that business is now is that people can listen to whatever they want to listen to. They go online. They don't gotta, just listen to what radio decides is going to be a hit. So I think that there's always going to be a fan base that wants to hear that lyrical content like that. And it may not be the mainstream, even though Kendrick Lamar was fortunate enough to go mainstream, and I think J. Cole has as well. Those kind of artists are going to be able to carve out a niche for themselves and have their fan bases, and it's worldwide now. So pretty much you can have millions of followers, that love what you do. And just like Prince, Prince, you think, oh, well, Prince, what happened to him? Well, guess what? Prince been putting out albums before he passed away, giving his music away for free, but able to make money in other ways because of that, because of his stature and having a business savvy that he did, able to make a living doing tours or whatever he was doing, selling whatever he was selling. But his fan base, loyal, artists like that are gonna have loyal fan base, you know.
Prince, he's one of the ones who would never die. There's always a discussion between Prince, Michael Jackson. It was one more who's the greatest of all times. And
Yeah.
the fan base of Prince, if you don't say Prince, they gonna give you the business. So, but
That's true.
If anybody wanted to know what type of producer, what type of musician is Doug Rasheed?
I am a type of producer and musician that, even if to my detriment, I like to create and I like to be creative. So I'm not the type of producer that's gonna find some dope sound and then try to just duplicate it and replicate it and just say, oh, this is my sound and this is what I'm gonna do. I got 150 beats that all have this same sound. Most of my songs and most of my beats are gonna have a different flavor to them. So sometimes that's detrimental as a producer because it doesn't allow you to brand yourself and say this is my sound. So and I'm not a follower, so I don't try to follow trends. I just do what I do. I do what I do. I like all kinds of music. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Cab Calloway, Ray Charles, Lil Baby, Dub Baby, everything from old to new, everything from rock to gospel, everything in between, R&B. I like everything, and so it's in my music.
So is it one type of record that you never made that you wish you have, or you pretty much done dibbled and dabbled in everything?
I've got hundreds of songs in pretty much every genre. I got a whole country album worth of songs, and then a bunch of those. I got a gospel albums worth of songs. I got R&B album songs, just songs that I wrote. I'm not a singer, but I get in and I do what I do to get my songs, get the ideas out. So I've probably had, if I wanted to, if I could sing, if I really could sing, I would be able to put out an album in just about every genre. Yeah.
I mean, and I guess that's the way producers have to be now, because like you said, making beats is a dying off breed.
Yeah.
Are you working with anybody right now, or are you looking to work with some people in the near future?
Yeah, I actually started working with a Jamaican artist named Gamble G, and he just got back in from Jamaica. He was raised here and in Jamaica, and so he's, before that I hadn't worked with anybody for a while. Got kind of disenchanted with working with young artists. With the way that the game is, it's kind of, they looking for that instant success, or they want to just be popular, which a lot of the business now is popularity. You know what I'm saying? So this guy has something special, so I'll start working with him, and along with him and the guy that brought him to me, a good friend of mine, Simeon. Simeon brought me a couple other guys who are from Louisiana, and they're a duo of brothers, siblings. And their names are Reggae and Jazz. That's their real names, Reggae and Jazz. And these guys came in and they really impressed me. So I've been working with them as well, and we just kind of formulated a little bit of a clique that we're working now. We're doing some things.
So if anybody try to reach out to you, to try to send you something, is it a way they can get in contact with you? Are you on social media? Any information out there for the people?
DougRasheed.com. If you want to go on there, they can reach out to me. I'll get the email. And pretty much anywhere on social media, you'll find me under my name. So Facebook.com/Doug Rasheed, Instagram Doug Rasheed, Twitter Doug Rasheed. Pretty much anything you want, Doug Rasheed will get to me.
And you taking demos from people to send it to you?
I mean, I don't turn down on demos. I don't turn down on demos because you just never know. I still get stuff all the time. Well, I'm talking about from around the world. People send me music. So I listen to it. I always listen to it. And if I hear something special, I reach out and, just all depends. I mean, a lot of it's not just the music. It's also How do we align our interests and our goals, and can we work together? Some people don't need music; they got music, so they're not coming to me for music. They're coming to me for sometimes just advice. Sometimes they just like, man, I want to, hook me up with, they don't understand the business, so they think I'm going to just be able to deliver their dream to them. Sometimes that's what they think, but I don't turn down demos because I learned my lesson the hard way, and I'm not gonna say who it was because that's gonna make me look real bad. Like you blew that, man. You blew that. You had a chance and you blew that one. But I've had that happen. Like hey, you need to check this out, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it. I never got around to it. Next thing you know, bye. You know what I'm saying? So you never know.
So in your mind, describe to me, and it's gonna be the last thing we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Describe to me what is the perfect artist.
Wow, that's an interesting question. I don't even know if I can answer that question. But I don't know that we have that in today's music, but I might be a little bit detached because I'm a little older now, and these young guys doing their own thing. But one thing that I have not allowed myself to do is become so disconnected from what they do. I love what they're doing. I play hip hop all the time in my car, so and here at the house. But I think that the artists to me that come close to that are the older, artists from the older generation, like Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, Prince, Michael Jackson. In today's world, it's difficult. I don't see anybody really standing out from each other as much. I love Kendrick Lamar. You mentioned him earlier. One of my I'd say top 5 rappers of the new generation. Definitely Kendrick Lamar would come close, and to what I think for today's generation. As far as when I was doing in the '90s, Pop, because he wasn't just a rapper. He was also an activist, a performer, actor, and just all around, just a talented guy. He was more than just a rapper. To me, a perfect artist, you can't just be a rapper.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying, or a performer. You got to have all kinds of other attributes.
That's how you make your money in this game.
Well, these days you got to have other attributes. You have to, or you can't make no money because nobody's really buying music like they used to. So you have to have other ways to make your money. In a lot of ways, it's good because it has created businessmen out of hood dudes. That probably maybe in a lot of cases used to sell drugs on the street. Mm-hmm. So they're good businessmen that were doing what only thing they had available to them, and now they're able to take those skills and put them into legal businesses, and make that money. Yeah.
So, Doug, man, we appreciate you with your time. Everybody on Grandosiá TV, make sure you subscribe, like, hit the notification bell for all new update and content that we put out. And like I say, once again, we thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge of the game with us and your experiences with different artists. And hopefully we can get you back on here again.
I would absolutely be glad to come back and talk to you again, man. Especially once we get our music ready to come out, which will be this year. And I also have a couple books that I've written. I've delved to start dabbling in the authorship, writing, literary, right? You're not an author until you're published. I found that out. You can't call yourself an author until you publish a book. So, I would love to come back. It's been my pleasure and my honor to speak with you. I thank you.